You know, my dear nerdy creatures, each and every time a new handheld generation comes out, we need to ask ourselves, is the previous generation trash now? Is it useless? Can I even freaking enjoy it anymore? Now, don't get me wrong, the entire handheld industry is based on the idea that you should feel FOMO and you should want, at the very least, the new and improved generation from the one that you most probably have. It's the entire business model of the companies that serve us, the handhelds that we love, and there's nothing inherently wrong with this. I need to emphasize that the reason that we have so many handhelds is because they are made, so you want to buy them. But I think it's my job and the job of other YouTubers, I still don't consider myself a YouTuber to be honest, to have you sit down and to have a talk with you and to ground you a bit and your feet in reality so that your wallet can get a bit of breathing room and relax. So we need to discuss about the people who have this, I would argue, still very relevant bad boy. This is the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And as you know by now, the Retroid Pocket 5, its successor, just came out. And the question on everybody's mind that purchased this thing is, should I buy this thing? And the answer is way more complicated than you think. I invite you to stick around, grab a carb of your choice, a drink of your choice, and just listen to me yammer as we talk about this. This is more of a general conversation, but it's also a direct comparison between the beautiful Retroid Pocket 5 and the practical Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And I just want to quickly mention that nobody saw this video beforehand because this video is entirely my own idea, so, you know, freedom of speech, conversation between my brain and yours. But before I start, don't forget to like and subscribe this video. Dear nerd, you have no idea how much this helps a small channel like myself. So if you love conversations like these, if you love a fellow nerd being there for you and giving you the real poop, because that's the only poop I know how to make, then do me a favor and do subscribe. Thanks. So, I could go into details about performance with these two handhelds, but the fact of the matter is that performance-wise, they aren't really that different, even though they have vastly different SoCs. You see, my sweet nerds, the Retroid Pocket 5 has a Snapdragon 865, which was released in December 2019. I know that sounds like a million years ago by this point, but it's still very good. Even though my main gripe with it is that it's made on a 7nm transistor size, meaning that when you really work it, when you really make it fire on all cylinders, that's when you notice that it's the SoC equivalent of a gas guzzler. It consumes just way more battery than most SoCs that we have in 2025. Whereas the MediaTek D1100 in the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is actually built on a 6nm chip. So we have this weird paradox where the previous generation actually has a more modern SoC than the newest generation. And this is something that I really felt that we should bring up and we should freaking talk about. It's kind of important, especially because this directly affects battery life, but not just now, but in the future as well, as the battery life goes into multiple cycles and its durability lowers. That's when you'll see the difference, the battery consumption difference between SoCs beginning to widen. Outside of the SoC thing, I would say that we have more aesthetic differences. The obvious glaring difference is the screen. Look, I am gonna side with the Retroid Pocket 5 on this all day long. The screen on this, just look at it. It's freaking amazing, and I don't even have it at nearly half brightness. It's simply the best screen. Wait a second, freaking fingerprints. I'm gonna talk about this being a fingerprint magnet in a second, but the screen itself is easily, freaking easily the best screen that I had on any retro handheld. It's that simple. It's just a pleasure to use. It doesn't ever make me feel like I am missing out on something, especially because I come from a background where I used my phone and a telescopic controller to emulate, and I always loved the thing about emulating with a phone is that you still had that bezel screen in the middle. Well, this gives you that same illusion, and it also carries huge points for resembling a freaking more modern version, a 2025 version of a PS Vita. Aesthetically speaking, the Retroid Pocket 5 is very, very, very beautiful, but aesthetics alone can only push the Retroid Pocket 5 so far in the lead, because practicality-wise, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is still freaking king. You see, if you check Reddit, you will already see a lot of posts of cracked Retroid Pocket 5s, because this glass isn't, as far as I know, neither Gorilla Glass Victus or any sort of hard Gorilla Glass. It's just pretty much kind of fragile glass. It's a glass front, but it doesn't have anything magical to it. Whereas with the 4 Pro, you have plastic, and I can't begin to tell you how important it is to have plastic on handhelds. Handhelds are portable freaking things, and you'll end up dropping it. You'll have a kid probably, given my demographics. Most of you apparently have kids. You'll have, not so smart offspring which will come and they'll be like, ha ha ha, and they'll break it. You need to have plastic, in my own opinion, on handhelds, because durability is something that we should all take into consideration when we have portable toys like this. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a freaking shallow hypocrite because I love how the glass front looks on this. It gives us the illusion of a bezel-less display. It makes it feel as if you don't really know when you have a black background where the screen ends and the controller parts begin. It's simply beautiful. I do, however, think that there could have been middle grounds here. For example, if we look at what Amberneck is doing, they have a plastic front and pretty small bezels as well, and somehow it works for them. For example, look at the trusty old faithful RG Cube. Now, I know I wasn't the kindest with this particular console, but I learned to love the RG Cube over time. There's a lot of subtleties here, which I think we all collectively took for granted. Like, look at the small double bezel that we have here. This, in my opinion, is good design, my dear nerds. We have a very thin plastic bezel, and then an arguably kind of thin, but at the very least symmetrical, screen bezel. But the overall bezel itself isn't that much bigger than even the bezel-less glass screen that we have to sacrifice so much for on the Retroid Pocket 5. And the thing is that with OLED displays like what we have on the Retroid Pocket 5, usually the screen bezel ends up being actually slimmer than what we have on this IPS panel. So if the RG Cube teaches us anything, is that there are middle grounds, there are solutions where we can have a durable handheld that's made out of good old-fashioned plastic and still make it super attractive looking. Imagine if the front of the RG Cube were to be morphed and adapted to fit the front of the Retroid Pocket 5. We wouldn't have had the potential fragility that comes with this glass, and I think a lot of people, a lot of nerdy creatures like you and me would be more than okay with this compromise, especially because I don't think this looks bad, but more than anything is that this makes fingerprints way less visible. In fact, basically non-visible at all, except for the dust that I have here. But by comparison, the Retroid Pocket 5 is... Or do I even need to use words just to look at this? I mean, somebody can literally scan my fingerprints and, you know, do very bad things with them and incriminate me. That's how good and how faithfully the fingerprints end up being rendered on this screen. But I don't want to give the Retroid Pocket 5 free hate, my dear nerds, because I am not against this handheld. This is a problem that comes with every glass handheld that we have out there. This is a widespread problem that we seem to be having because the whole premium handheld industry is going towards glass. And I feel like I'm one single soldier here standing in front of an army of Persians. I don't think a lot of people talk about this enough. But I do, because I hate this. Not the handheld, just me having to wipe it every freaking 5 minutes. But after I wipe it, it does look nice. And my other point of contention between these two is the ergonomics. You see, most of us think that bumps on the back actually equal to better ergonomics, but there's a huge asterisk here. The size of the handheld itself makes it be better without ergonomic grips on the back. Again, disclaimer, this is my own opinion. If you have a different opinion, that's totally okay. Do not shoot the messenger. This is a discussion between the two of us. So, you know, it's okay to have diverging opinions. I will love you anyway, my nerd. I will love you even more if you subscribe, by the way. So, to leapfrog through the ergonomics argument, this design is very good if you're gonna play with the D-pad. Look at my fingers. Let me just switch to this position. They naturally sit in this gap right here. And this is good for when my thumb needs to reach this part of the handheld, aka where the D-pad is. But when we have a game that requires sticks, I instantly need to move my whole hand in order to make the stick accessible. Now, I think, this is just a theory from my end, I think that Retroid wanted us to use the stick like this, with the, out of a lack of a better word, with the middle of our thumb here, because this movement is way easier to do than this movement. This would require you to move your entire hand, and just like I mentioned in my previous video, look at my wrist. How long do you think I can play like this and still be comfortable? You know, I am over 30. I'm unfortunately way over 30. I'm not as flexible anymore, and the first things to go are my wrists. So the fact that I have to bend my wrists in order to get a full control over the stick is not something that I'm particularly happy about. Whereas the situation is surprisingly totally different on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. You'd think that the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is less ergonomic because of the flat back, but this is far from the truth, because what you actually want is these three fingers to have room to move, and you can't really have this freedom when you have a freaking hill to go around here. So here, the position basically locks you into having this finger between these two bumps. On the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, you have total freedom in the back. These top fingers actually end up resting on the base of the trigger bump, making it feel like you still have a good grip on it and good ergonomics. And I found myself not having difficulty with reaching the joystick, the left joystick here, as opposed to the Retroid Pocket 5. I am simply in awe of how much better the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro feels to me. And look, if you bought the Retroid Pocket 5, don't feel bad. I bought it as well. It's a good freaking handheld. It's an amazing freaking handheld. However, I would like, and this is what I would call constructive criticism, I would like Retroid to give us custom backplates without these bumps if possible. You know, I really need to open this up to see if these bumps actually protect the vibration motors inside, if they are hearing these bumps, or if these bumps are just plastic. If they are just plastic, I might actually work towards making a 3D model of a flat back, and I would share it with all of you beautiful nerds. But alas, that's way in the future. I don't want to make empty promises here. Still have a lot of things that I need to do first. But going back to our thing here, yeah, the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro just gives me confidence. If I travel around, I feel way more secure throwing this in my backpack, and you know, because I'm a careless mother flipper, I would throw that backpack around. Maybe I'm in a train station, I chuck my backpack on a bench somewhere. I don't want to think whether or not this thing jumps around in my backpack and maybe takes the brunt of the force when, you know, I chuck my backpack on that bench. I don't want to fear that this breaks. Whereas I couldn't care less with the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, and that's not because I don't care about this handheld. It's the implied confidence that I have in this plastic housing. And it's gonna sound like I'm grilling the Retroid Pocket 5, but between these two, by the end I will be forced to recommend the Retroid Pocket 5 over the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro solely because of this screen. Even if I don't want to admit it, my dear nerds, the screen is the conduit towards our games, and the fact that the screen is considerably bigger, it just makes things way more playable. But everything else I like about the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, including the feel of the buttons. I love the layout of these thumbsticks. I love that they don't have LEDs. I cannot find words to describe how much I despise this trend with LED lights on sticks. I would like to think that we are not impressed by shiny lights like this. I want practicality and optimization for battery life. It's easy to forget that these LEDs also take up current from the battery and makes your overall gameplay be shorter per charge. These make me think that they were made for a mature adult target audience, for people in our age range. They are peak practicality and peak functionality, and these are great sticks. Now, the Retroid Pocket 5 also has amazing sticks, but I have a special problem with RGB lights. I just see them as battery wasters. That's basically it. The white LED around the sticks just totally ruins what could otherwise be a pure black, perfectly aesthetic handheld. Now, bear in mind, I know there's different colors of the Retroid Pocket 5, but I love my black handhelds to be as monochrome and as elegantly black as possible. And in this context, I simply love how the sticks on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro look way more. So you might be wondering, Vlad, why did you say that you would still choose the Retroid Pocket 5 over the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, even though you kind of trashed the Retroid Pocket 5 throughout the entire video? Well, my dear nerds, I don't feel like I trashed the 5. I feel like I gave you a comparison between two amazing handhelds, and that's kind of it. At the end of the day, you would be happy with any of them. But my thing that I want you to take away from this video is to ask yourself the most massive question that you have to ask when you choose to either upgrade from the 4 to the 5, or even if you're thinking to buy either one of them. The main difference here is the screen, and everything else falls second place. Yeah, I complained about the RGB sticks. Some people like the RGB sticks. That's not a problem to a lot of people. The sticks by themselves feel very nice. The ergonomics issue can be solved either by adapting, because your wrists will adapt, or you can buy a grip. Either way, you can still enjoy the Retroid Pocket 5 or the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro if, asterisk right here, if you don't mind the smaller screen. The fact of the matter is that the Retroid, for better or for worse, my dear nerds, changed their design language between these generations. This wasn't a performance-oriented generational leap, this was a design change leap. And some people might love this. I know I love the fact that this reminds me of a PS Vita, but I also love the fact that this gives me confidence to travel around with it and not baby it. Oh, and while I'm on the sticks, you have to know that the sticks on the Retroid Pocket 5 are way more clacky than what we have on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. And I never liked clacky buttons, I like clicky buttons. If these were micro switches, then I would be okay with that. If, however, we're gonna play with normal membrane buttons, I love the ones that are way more quiet. You know, someday you might want to play in bed, or, you know, a lot of people say that it's important to not make sounds when you play in bed besides your partner. First of all, good on you if you have a partner. But I personally never understood the thing with playing in bed. Maybe a lot of you enjoy that. I feel like I'm personally surrounded by too much stimuli as it is to bring these into bed, because then I wouldn't sleep at all. I would just stay around like an over-caffeinated squirrel and just not sleep until 5 AM if I bring this kind of stimuli in bed. So, just to end this video, the TLDR is screen difference. Pick on whatever screen you feel you like most. If the bigger screen is not a necessity for you, then I feel like you get certain other advantages with the 4 Pro, which the 5 I wish had. Ideally, my perfect handheld would be if Retroid hadn't done this design language shift and would have just released a Retroid Pocket 4 Pro successor with the screen of the Retroid Pocket 5, which would have more or less imitated the design of something like the RG Cube. Of course, I would still want a 16:9 aspect ratio and everything, but I'm talking about plastic shell and as thin bezels as possible. So tell me what you think, my dear nerds. I know I threw some opinions here which a lot of you might not resonate with, and as I always say, it's okay if you're wrong. I'm kidding. This video is highly subjective. I'm the first one to say it, but these are my preferences. You know, I feel like a lot of people, and by people I mean reviewers, jump into the bandwagon that the newest handheld must be always praised. Now, as a YouTuber, I know why they do that. You know, I have lukewarm feelings on it. I think this whole scene of ours would be way better if YouTubers just made videos like these, where they just spoke how they feel. But alas, I don't want to throw shade or to make other people on YouTube feel as if I'm attacking them. I'm really not. But in my opinion, I think newer products should always freaking always be compared to their predecessors. Through this comparison, we see what iterative improvement should have carried across from one generation to another. But if you're still confused on which one to buy, I can't help you. I defended the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro throughout this entire video, and for good measure. All of the arguments that I gave you are arguments I personally care deeply about. Although, I will still recommend the Retroid Pocket 5 over the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro because of that screen. If they had the same screen, if the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro had the same 5.5-inch OLED as the 5, then there would have been no contest. I would have told you to get this. So search deep within your soul, my dear nerd. Ask yourself, how much does a big screen matter to me? For me, apparently I'm shallow, and aesthetics matter to me because the screen, for me, is what the handheld is all about. It's the gateway to the games that I play. So the bigger the screen in the more compact package, by default wins, and this by itself is such a big improvement that it gets to subsidize a lot of other flaws which the 5 might have over the 4. But that's it, my dear nerds. Tell me what you think, I'll be reading all the comments. I love you very much. Kind reminder, in case you haven't subscribed, do me this solid and please subscribe. I want to grow this channel, and because the channel is small, every subscription and every like helps a lot. So, we'll see each other in the next video, my dear nerds. Bye. Oh wait, I almost forgot about